Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys at Magic. This is Hunter, Steven, Shane, and David. Say what up, boys.
What's up?
Hello.
What up, nerds?
We are back this time, June 6th, 2023. Another batch of Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth spoilers. It was a big stream today with weekly MTG. They showed off a whole bunch of stuff, including 5 Jumpstart cards, exclusively 2 Jumpstart boosters of this set. So we'll get through all of them, some reprints of some box toppers and all that jazz. So starting off with the first card, this is Elven Chorus. It is 3 and a green for an enchantment. It says, look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library, and creatures you control have tap at 1 mana of any color. This
It's a
is
new fun toy for Lathril.
pretty good enchantment.
I would say so. Giving out your
Yeah.
creatures the ability to tap for mana. Hello?
And you can cast them off the top of your library.
Yeah, I say on top of other stuff. Hello?
It's an upgraded Cryptolith, right, dude?
Well, it's more expensive, but yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a lot more
upgraded.
expensive.
Yeah.
But you get to do a lot more too.
You do get to do a lot more. I don't know. I do like this card. Don't be wrong, it's very powerful. From a design standpoint, a lot of the cards that we've seen like this in the past are like a specific card type or a specific creature type. So this one just being able to cast any creature, I feel like it's really pushing it.
Yeah.
Push it to the limit.
Pushing
cool,
it
though.
in a good way or a bad way?
Anyway.
Kind of both at the same time. I don't know. I look at things like I don't want Lord of the Rings to become like this staple product where if you want to go off and play like a decent deck, you've got to go invest in a ton of cards that come from this set. And this is a very very good card that I look at and was like, this probably just slots on every green deck. It ramps you. It has an immense amount of card advantage here, and it provides information. So like, is your deck going to be worse by not including this card? And that's kind of, I guess, where my gripe is.
You think it's going to be more than a $5 rare, though?
I definitely think this is going to be more than a $5 rare. Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, I like that point you're bringing up, though, David, because like I've looked at the set so far, and I'm not gonna lie. Normally I don't want to buy anything from a set, but this has changed my mind. Like there's so many great cards in this set.
I'll buy singles, Steven.
Yes,
That's all I
buy
can tell you.
singles.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that's my point, though, is that like at this point, I feel like we've gotten maybe 4 or 5 cards that I look at and was like, if you play this color, you probably need to pick up this card. And this is another one of them where it's like, if your deck is green, you may want to consider putting this in your deck. So I do think that's going to really drive up the price of it. I think that, yes, obviously they wanted to go ahead and put powerful staples in so that people would go out and buy Lord of the Rings product. I'm just not a fan of like, this card is really good and doesn't really have much of a downside. I mean, the worst part about this card is the fact that it's 4 mana, and that's really not even a ton.
All I know is that if it's cheaper than Smothering Tithe, I'm okay.
Funny enough,
monetarily
this
speaking.
is okay. I was like, this is
Sorry,
the
monetarily
same
speaking.
CMC.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about like being a staple.
We'll see if it becomes a staple, but Elven Chorus, we're all on board. This is a fantastic enchantment.
True.
Moving on to the Watcher in the Water. It is 3 and 2 blue for a 9/9 legendary creature Kraken. It says it enters the battlefield tapped with 9 stun counters on it. If you don't remember stun counters, instead of untapping this, you just remove a stun counter. And whenever you draw a card during an opponent's turn, create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token. And whenever a tentacle you control dies, untap up to 1 target Kraken and put a stun counter on up to 1 target non-land permanent.
Dude, I like this card a lot. David said this to me, and I was like, yes, I would totally play with this card. It seems slow, and I get it that it'll, won't untap for probably a couple turns, maybe a good amount of turns. We'll see. But
you see a tentacle to die. And you can
yeah, I
untap
mean,
it.
you'll get those for drawing, and drawing on other people's turns, I don't think is that difficult.
Yeah, this card's got some really cool art.
You don't like this card, really?
It's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay.
Big Krakens.
Fair enough.
I do love the last piece of text, though. Whenever a tentacle you control dies, untap up to 1 target Kraken and put a stun counter on up to 1 target non-land permanent. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that this is kind of neat, though. I mean, there are ways for you to like force untap things in blue. I mean, given that it's gonna help you like chew through the stun counters.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you are able to, I guess, drop those or something, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a way to play around with this. Like, does Amulet of Vigor get around this, where it ETBs and it comes in untapped?
Good question. I don't know if we need a judge. Judge.
Because I feel like, I mean, if you can play around with that somehow, I mean, like, obviously 5 mana for a 9/9 is really powerful. My gripe with this card is that, and I think that Steven's kind of on the same page here, is that this is really not going to be a creature. It's going to focus more as like an enchantment. Because, yeah, it's a 9/9, but, like, you're not swinging with this probably ever.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
make those 1/1s, dude.
I will say, David, off of what you said about Amulet of Vigor, it still enters the battlefield tapped, so it'll still enter the battlefield 9 stun counters. Amulet of Vigor would untap it, but then that piece of text would basically re-tap it and, reduce the stun counter.
I don't know how it works. That's how it works. How it works.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, Amulet of Vigor basically states...
No,
when a
he
permanent-
is
yeah.
correct. He's correct. I thought that the wording on Amulet was a little bit different. So, yeah, it wouldn't work. I don't know. It's
Well-
an interesting card. I like the design.
You would get a stun counter removed from it immediately, though.
I mean, that's why he's the Watcher in the Water and not doing anything else. He's just watching the board.
He's the lurker.
I will say, I think that this is like... Maybe I'm wrong by saying this. I don't know, but like, I don't think this is a hate bearer whatsoever. I think this comes down on the field and people are just like, cool, this dude's just making blue tentacles, and nobody's really doing anything until they notice you like aggressively start tapping their stuff down.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a new enchantment. This is Spiteful Banditry. It is X and 2 red for an enchantment. It says when it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to each creature. And whenever one or more creatures your opponents control die, you create a treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn.
Huh.
So we have somewhat of a red meat hook.
I'm going to tell you right now, because we talked about it a little while ago, this is a new staple piece.
Could see it.
Yeah, I'm on
Eh.
David's. I'm on David's.
Why? It's a board wipe that then gives you treasure
A
token.
treasure.
A treasure.
It gives you one
Oh.
treasure if you board wipe.
Even
I mean,
still, one treasure. Fuck.
And I mean,
and it only
dealing
triggers
damage
once each turn.
Dealing damage on top of that too is probably the weakest way for you to be able to get rid of things, because this is going to cost a ton of mana for it to affect even like a decent board. And like, yeah, you're going to accumulate additional treasures over the course of the game just whenever this thing is out. But the whole once per turn clause on this, like, I feel like this is not even in the same ballpark as Meat Hook. Because like Meat Hook, oftentimes like it drops and it wins the game on the spot. This is not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's similar, like design standpoint.
No, I can agree with that. I just don't think it's power level wise. I don't think this is anywhere comparable.
I mean, I think that if we're thinking commander wise, this is pretty powerful. I mean, I understand that it's not Meat Hook. I mean, I don't really want to make that reference, but there are 3 other people that are either attacking you or each other. And if somebody puts down a threat on the board and somebody tries to destroy it, that only benefits you. And all you had to do was, I mean, shit, you don't even have to pay the X cost. You can just pay the 2 mana.
I mean,
I
yeah,
get that.
there's the benefit there, but I mean, like, that is like in a perfect world, this is making 4 treasures per turn cycle. I just don't think we're going to see that perfect world. And so, I mean, I look at it like this at its absolute best is a slightly cheaper version of like a Smothering Tithe at its absolute best.
I mean, I'll agree with that. I just think that, even if it's not a perfect world and you make 2 treasures rather than 4, you have already paid off the cost to put into this. And then you've just gotten back to your turn and you're, net neutral at that point. Not to mention that if you have any interaction in your hand and you didn't have any mana to spend, your opponents just helped you get that interaction out.
We'll see. I'm on David's team here. I don't think it's that powerful. Let's move on to Goldberry River Daughter. It is 1 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary creature nymph. You can tap it, move a counter of each kind, not on Goldberry River Daughter, from another target permanent you control onto Goldberry. You can also pay 1 blue and tap it, move 1 or more counters from Goldberry onto another target permanent you control. If you do, draw a card. Shane, you mentioned something yesterday, and I think this applies here too.
Did I? What I mention?
Harry the Pulverizer.
Oh.
Yeah, this
I
card's it's got some cool art.
You
I mean,
don't
it's
like
going to
this
be a
card
fun
again.
thing to move around counters, dude.
I'm seeing a pattern here, Steven. You don't like blue cards, huh?
Don't you dare say that blasphemy again.
I mean, you're acting like it. Jeez.
Listen, man, I love the color blue and Magic. I don't really deal with decks that deal with counters like you guys might have. Hunter, I know you built the parry deck. I just this to me is just it's weird, and I don't understand it fully in my mind. I like the big smashy easy things, and I don't want to play chess. I want to hurt people.
In a way, it's kind of like the Osgiliath.
You can draw a card with the
No.
Osgiliath?
In a way, it's
David,
kind of like
opinion.
the Osgiliath because you can throw counters onto this, right? So you're always going to have the counters stick around if this doesn't die, and then you can move them later. And then if you're running like Proliferate or something, just increase those counters.
What can move one of each? But sorry, go ahead, David.
The Osgiliath, I don't. Okay, yes, it bounces counters around. The Osgiliath doesn't require anything for me to do that. It just does it. This is a small, fragile creature that requires me to tap and pay mana to use its abilities.
I said like the Osgiliath, didn't say it was.
I mean, look, this is a card that like you can go ahead and you can have some shenanigans, but they're going to be incredibly slow. Your opponents are very going to clearly see it coming, and this card is super, super niche.
Cool art, though, huh?
I love the artwork on this card.
Yeah, great art.
Moving on to the Battle of Bywater. It is 1 and 2 white for a sorcery. It says destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, then create a food token for each creature you control.
That's a good board wipe.
Simple to the point.
This is
Halfling tribal.
I mean, not just halfling, just small creatures. I love this card actually. I think that this is a really good card. This is oh my goodness, what is the already like? There already exists a board wipe that does this kind of exact same thing. Like I think it's what Fell the Mighty.
Yeah, Spell the Mighty. The only difference is you get to choose the power, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, like for the most part, if you're playing small little decks, like power 3 or greater is still dope for you. So if you're running around with like a bunch of tokens or small creatures, this is awesome. And then you make all those food. I mean, granted, food doesn't do much, but like still, like that's awesome.
I mean, I think this slots straight into any Arcades deck.
Yeah. Or like any like upgrade for like a Frodo and Sam deck.
I was about to say that.
Hey, they do stuff, David, because it's just still an artifact entering the battlefield.
Well, I mean, no, it's not just the artifact. Those two actually specifically do care about food.
Oh, I was just going back to your original statement of food not doing much. But if you just care about artifacts,
potatoes,
potato,
boil them, mash them, kill everything with power 3 or greater.
That's exactly the way I remember that.
Sounds good to me. Moving on to Sharkey, Tyrant of the Shire. It is 2, a blue and a black for a 2/4 legendary creature avatar rogue. It says activated abilities of lands your opponents control can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Sharkey, Tyrant of the Shire, has all activated abilities of lands your opponents control, except mana abilities. And mana of any type can be spent to activate Sharkey's abilities.
Guys,
so that's
you can crack them and go look for a land.
Do you think he's a tyrant because he knows he's a bad card?
It's an interesting design point. It's never really been done, right?
Not that I know of.
So what are some good lands that don't require it sacrificing itself?
Rogue's Passage.
There you go. That's a good one.
Cabal Coffers.
That isn't a mana ability, though.
That is a mana ability.
Psych.
So Cabal Coffers. Okay, so Rogue's Passage is a good one.
All right,
any of the castles.
Yeah, any of the castles, any land that has an ability on it, like that whole cycle, what he just talked about, the castles.
That's a good one too.
I don't know. There's, I guess, man lands you could do.
Yeah.
If you're really aggressive with it, then I guess
if your opponent
like
has
wasteland abilities.
That's why I don't like this card. All right, you need to hope that your opponent has some really cool lands.
When David pulls his land destruction deck out, I'll play this deck.
But then that's really cool. Have any abilities?
Yeah, you won't have any abilities. It's great. Great idea.
Oh shit!
There you go, dude. Sacrifice it. Make him blow up a land.
All right, bad card, bad. Calling it.
Yeah, you're betting on your opponents playing awesome lands.
Yeah, I'm gonna say bad card, interesting, but still bad card.
Next up, Saradoc, Master of Buckland. This is 3 and a white for a 2/4 legendary creature, halfling citizen. Whenever Saradoc, Master of Buckland, or another non-token creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white halfling creature token. You can also tap 2 other untapped halflings you control to give Saradoc a +2/+0 and gains lifelink until end of turn.
It seems like a fun deck.
I like the token production. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
neat.
This is
Very
the
much so.
first of the Jumpstart exclusives. You can only find it in Jumpstart packs. This is your white rare.
Awesome. Love Jumpstart, dude.
Real quick about Jumpstart. Comment down below, real quick. Do you guys buy Jumpstart packs of actual product instead of just Jumpstart, like the set? I'm really curious on if anyone actually purchases that stuff. But moving back onto this card, what do we think, Steven?
I mean, yeah. Token production.
Yeah, seems good, dude. If you're
Cool.
as long as you're playing little dudes with little power, you'll be making more little dudes.
Yeah, perfect for the board wipe we just saw, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Because it'll be perfect for the board wipes.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't give it +2/+0.
It's all about going wide with these halflings, I'd say.
Listen,
think
I think the opinion I have on this card is, an opinion that David kind of mentioned earlier. Little stretch, obviously, what I'm going to say, but am I going out to get this card to build a deck around it, or are there other cards that do this way better, that are way cooler? I mean, if you're into Lord of the Rings and you want to build this because you really like Saradoc, I mean, sure, but I don't find this interesting at all.
I don't know. I just like the token production on him, but aside from that, I don't really think he does a whole lot.
You know what? I do have one last thing to add. I do like the fact that if you do go super wide, you can make this dude huge. That I will say is cool.
True.
But that's really it.
Yeah, and we'll talk more when we get to our commander grades. Moving on to the blue rare that's exclusive to Jumpstart. It is Elvish Mariner. It's 2 and a blue for a 3/2 creature elf pilot. It says whenever Elvish Mariner attacks, scry 1. And whenever you scry, tap up to X target non-land permanents, where X is the number of cards looked at while scrying this way. Pretty interesting.
I like this.
The blue-green theme with like elves in this set having to care about scrying, I feel like is weird. I don't know if I generally feel like elves are like a scry-based tribe.
I
mean,
think
I
there's a
don't
missed
think
opportunity
they
here, dude.
are, but what's
What
the
do you
missed
boys think?
Trying
opportunity?
something new.
We're not going to let Shane talk.
No,
I
what's
think
the missed opportunity?
I think the missed opportunity is that it's a pilot, and it doesn't help you crew anything. It shouldn't say like, "Oh, you could crew 1 higher" or something. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, well, that maybe we shouldn't have let you talk.
What? It's a
Sure.
pilot, dude.
I think he's got a valid. Yeah, I think he's got a valid point here.
Thanks,
So
Steven.
shut up, Steven.
That was
Go
mean.
Back in your corner.
I listen, man. In this color, I just think Elminster. Like, this is really fun.
Yeah,
Elminster, baby.
this is because it doesn't have to do the ability, right? So it's just whenever you scry, you can tap stuff down.
Yeah, it's great.
True.
I mean, it does self-trigger as well, which I feel like is probably pretty good.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just saying you don't have to have it self-trigger. You can do other things. It's cool.
Yeah.
You're so true, Hunter. True with that, dude.
It's cool. Let's move on to the black rare of the Jumpstart. So this is Ringwraiths 4, 2 black for a 5/5 creature Wraith Knight. It says when Ringwraiths enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn. If that creature is legendary, its controller loses 3 life. And when the ring tempts you, return Ringwraiths from your graveyard to your hand.
Cool flavor. Meh.
Back to the bad cards. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is cool flavor. I agree with you, Shane, but 6 mana to give something a -3/-3, not even guaranteeing it to die, is not great.
I mean, I do think that this is a solid rare for Jumpstart, though. It's a big body that deals with one of your opponent's things and it comes back.
True. If you're playing Jumpstart.
I agree with you, David.
Understandable.
This is
Like,
a good limited bomb.
Yeah,
I know,
like
David.
that
I
is
know.
what this card was designed for.
I know. I'm just stupid.
No,
I
you're
mean,
not.
Ringwraiths, good for limited, not so good for other things.
Agreed.
The red rare, Assault on Osgiliath. It is X and 3 red for a sorcery. It says amass orcs X. Then goblins and orcs you control gain double strike and haste until end of turn. David, does this slip into a goblin deck in Modern?
I don't know about Modern. I mean, this that's 3 red mana still, and I don't think that goblins, or especially not orcs, is going to really be much of a thing. I think that this is probably a really good card as far as like your finisher whenever it comes to like the Jumpstart product, or if you are
100%.
playing in a Goblin style EDH deck, this is probably just gonna like close the game out for you. Also, Amass Orcs X, like I don't know why, but my brain always reads that backwards as Amass X Orcs. I don't know if anybody else is doing that too.
You've got a special brain. It's okay.
Dude, but in like a Krenko style deck, bro, 100% a finisher. It's crazy.
Everything has double strike. Let's go.
Yeah, dude, for 3 mana.
Mm.
Wild.
I do like for the Lord of the Rings set though that they have kind of like tied goblins and orcs together. Most of the cards that reference one reference both, so I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, dude.
Can I just talk about the art real quick? It's kind of cartoonish compared to what we've seen so far, huh?
A little bit.
I'm okay with that though. I don't know. I like the different styles of arts. I'm not a big fan of like the overly CGI kind of plastery look, and
Yeah.
this is not in that direction at all. So this, if anything, it kind of reminds me of like a, I don't know, maybe artistic style that we would have gotten from 10, 15 years ago.
Well, I was gonna say like one of the original cartoons of Lord of the Rings looks like this kind of.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll pick it up for my Krenko deck.
See? There you go.
Perfect. Double strike.
Easy playable. Easy playable.
And finally, the green rare from Jumpstart. It is Elanor Gardener. 3 and a green for a 2/4 legendary creature, Halfling Scout. It says when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. And at the beginning of your end step, if you sacrificed a food this turn, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. David, this seems like it would go in some sort of food upgrade precon deck.
Dude, this is going to be so difficult because I don't know the pricing of any of these cards, given that they're all just brand new and coming out. And so many of them just, I feel one of these slotted immediately into the Frodo and Sam deck.
David,
Like-
you know you have to put this in there, right?
But here's my problem, man, is that like if this, because I think this is actually a really good card.
I know.
So I don't know what the price tag of something like this is going to be. I mean,
Also-
this, I like that green has been getting like this food token theme. I think it's really cool that they're starting to play around with artifacts specifically with food because I feel like it's just like it is within green's wheelhouse. And this card just in general is a good card.
Also, just on the fact of, lore, dude, it's Sam's daughter. It's
It is
got to go
Sam's
in
daughter.
it's got to go in your deck.
It's too good not to.
We'll see what we can do with this. This card is currently pre-selling for $15.
It's gonna go down.
You have anything to add on this card, Steven?
I mean, does the things.
It does the things. Ramping is great when you eat some food.
Nom 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 nom.
Ramps are technically a type of food. So there you go.
There you go.
What?
Yeah, ramps. You never had ramps before?
No, I thought you just walk up them.
It's whenever you
Nope.
eat too much food, right? And you're like, oh man, I got stomach ramps.
Just walk up them. Oh my god, that was incredible. Let's go over some of these box toppers that are all reprints. They announced the rest of them. The Dead Marshes is a reprint of Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. Minas Morgul is a reprint of Cabal Coffers. Hanatha Nun is a reprint of Reflecting Pool. Redhorn Pass is a reprint of Mouth of Ronan. Helm's Deep is a reprint of Shinka, the Blood-Soaked Keep. Glittering Caves of Aglarond is a reprint of Gemstone Caverns. Inn of the Prancing Pony is a reprint of Pillar of the Paruns. Buckleberry Ferry is a reprint of Aboro, Palace in the Clouds. Meduseld, Golden Hall of Edoras is a reprint of Castle Ardenvale. White Tower of Echelon is a reprint of Caracas. Osgiliath Fallen Capital is a reprint of Core Haven. Bag End is a reprint of Horizon Canopy. Herugrim Sword of Rohan is a reprint of Sword and Hearth and Home. Ring of Barahir is a reprint of Sword of the Animist, and Shards of Narsil is a reprint of Thorn of the Amethyst. What do we think of these reprints?
These are all pretty cool.
I mean, there's like 5 of them that are worthy.
regardless of if they're worthy or not, the art is beautiful.
Yes.
The art is beautiful. I love that. I do feel like these are definitely what Steven said. They're very hit or miss. I think it's really cool that they're doing it, but at the same time, like some people are going to open this and have some real feel bad moments whenever they get a card that is just like not playable.
Agreed.
But that's every product. So
No, no,
Agreed again.
I completely agree. I just look at it as like this is like one of those added incentives of like, hey, go pick up a box because you're gonna get one of these special cards.
I think the Buckleberry Fairy card, the reprint of Boro Palace in the Clouds, is a really cool mechanic. I never really seen anything like that. I didn't know that was a card.
Really?
Yeah, like bouncing the land back over and over and over again for multiple ETBs. I think that's sick.
Well, all really cool reprints, all really cool art, like Shane was saying. But definitely you're hoping for one or the other instead of something else. But let's move on to the cards that they're spoiled today. Anduril, Flame of the West. It is 3 generic mana for a legendary artifact equipment. It says equipped creature gets +3/+1. And whenever equipped creature attacks, create 2 tapped 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. If that creature is legendary, instead create 2 of those tokens that are tapped and attacking. Equip cost of 2. Spirits, Shane.
Spirits, dude, you are correct. This will go into Spirits deck, right?
This will go in pretty much a lot of decks. I mean, this is an amazing card.
I guess that's true. Just create the spirit for you.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you threw this onto this Oath, King of the Oathbreakers that we talked about yesterday, you're making a whole bunch of stuff, which is cool.
That you are.
Spirits.
I mean, I really like this. I mean, if we just want to go like one step back, Nahiri, the new Nahiri that just came out, the super expensive one that really cares about other creatures having artifacts on them. I mean, creating those spirits to put those artifacts on in case somebody makes any wipes the board or anything like that, I think is really cool.
I don't really have much to add here. I mean, it's a really cool equipment. It's kind of like what you guys have already mentioned. It is a pretty decent power bump. It doesn't really do much for the toughness there, but I mean, like, it's going to provide some extra bodies, which is really powerful. And if you are equipped to a legendary, it's got added benefit.
Yeah, I'm imagining you put this onto a flyer. I hope.
I mean, like, you want to be able to get in with the creature, obviously.
Yeah.
Probably good enough to make like an equipment matters deck. It's definitely going to be a limited bomb. You're going to put this on whatever creature you're going to be able to push in for damage, and then boom, now it's just huge and providing with a ton of bodies.
Moving on to Horn of the Mark. It is 2 generic mana for a legendary artifact. It says whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Seems good.
This ability is always good. We've seen it like a lot.
Still seems good.
Oh yeah, I'm not disagreeing.
I mean, this is like card advantage that slots literally into any deck.
Yeah, this card's really good.
It's super cheap. It's very efficient. It's not locked in with a specific mana color. Like, this is another card that I think I'm going to have a problem with.
Wait, can I say it to you guys? Can I say it? This card's really good.
It is, isn't it, Shane?
Yeah.
I also just want to say, when I read this card the first time, I didn't see so I just saw Horn of Mark. It just made me laugh really hard.
Who the fuck is Mark?
Oh, hi, Mark.
This is Mark's horn, okay. No, but I agree with you, David. This slots into any deck.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see if you think the price is going to be insane for these cards. Flowering of the White Tree that we talked about yesterday, that's an absolute insane enchantment. It's under $10 right now, and that's pre-order prices. Pre-order prices always come down. So we'll see. Moving on to Smeagol, Helpful Guide. It is 1, a black and a green for a 4/2 legendary creature, Halfling Horror. It says at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your control this turn, the ring tempts you. Whenever the ring tempts you, target opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped under your control, and the rest into their graveyard. Why doesn't that just say mill until they hit a land?
That'd be too specific.
It's literally what it's doing, though.
I know.
This is really like flavorly mean, dude. If something dies, the ring tempts you, dude. Like, come on, Smeagol.
This seems very easy to pull off all the time.
Yeah, you can do this very consistently. I mean, Goldberry is great at sacrificing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to be milling someone's library very quickly.
And stealing their lands, dude. Stealing their preciouses.
See, that's the part that I care about with this card. It's like I don't care about whether or not we mill it, but this is ramping me anytime something dies, and it's ramping me with my opponent's lands, which I think
That's
is
so-
just kind of like fun.
That is so messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
This is
incentivizes people to not kill your shit. Unless
Well,
you're
you've been killing
this.
your own shit.
Ultimately, I don't really necessarily think it's going to matter. Like, it's nice that you're going to be able to ramp, and I think that part is really cool. The mill, I don't actually think is going to be very relevant. I mean, in a draft environment, they're playing with what 17 lands. You're not going to mill them to death with Smeagol. It's just not going to happen. And then in
True, you
EDH,
could-
kind of same thing, where they're playing with even more lands. Like you're not going to mill them to death with this card.
In that
No,
draft
I don't
environment,
think
though,
you're
you can
going
mess
to
them up.
mill them.
Unless you're playing against Steven, where he always cuts his lands.
I mean,
Not
that's
that.
true. I do cut an aggressive amount of lands in my decks. But no, I think the point I want to make off of what you just said, David, is reanimation is a pretty cool part of Golgari too. So if you're milling a lot of their good creatures, maybe you want one.
We'll talk more about Smeagol when we get to our commander grades, but I think we're all pretty confident that it's pretty good.
Yep.
Final card of the day, Scroll of Isildur. It is 2 and a blue for an enchantment saga. Its first lore counter says gain control of up to 1 target artifact for as long as you control Scroll of Isildur. The ring tempts you. The second lore counter says tap up to 2 target creatures, put a stun counter on each of them. And the third and final lore counter says draw a card for each tapped creature target opponent controls.
This seems really good in draft, David.
I don't know. You kind of like. There is a pretty heavy equipment matters theme with this set, so maybe that first mode's better than what I think it is. Because I'm just like, typically, I feel like you're going to whiff on that. The second mode's pretty good. The third mode will hopefully draw you at least 2 cards.
I'm imagining you're stealing a rock.
I mean, like in a game of EDH, yeah, you're gonna have a lot more options because people do play mana rocks, and this come down on turn 3, assuming so. Like the chances are somebody's gonna drop a mana rock on turn 1 or turn 2, so you do have the option to steal those.
Are there no rocks in the limited format currently with this?
We saw
I
one
don't know.
yesterday.
That was a
It was
3 mana rock.
It
That's
was.
true.
But I mean, like I
Yeah.
just look at it more like there's a lot of equipment in this set, so maybe somebody drops an equipment early on in the game. I mean, you also don't have to necessarily play this on turn 3. You can always wait, but I do feel like sagas generally you want to get them out sooner rather than later.
Well, this
You
could
can
be a
also
finisher too.
You know, steal an artifact creature too.
Yeah. Are there any artifact creatures in this set?
No.
I was just saying in general.
I mean, I'm high on the third chapter, man.
Oh yeah. Those are
mean-
big creatures you tapped.
I mean, that's true, but I mean, your opponent's going to see this and they're not going to feed into it. So I guess in a way, this kind of acts like maybe as a fog effect where they're like, okay, well, I'm just not going to attack because I don't want my opponent to draw extra cards. But
Right.
yeah, this is probably worth it. 3 mana for like a little bit of a tempo swing, kind of tripping your opponent up for a little bit, potentially stealing other things, and then also drawing you 2 cards. Like 3 mana to draw 2 cards, probably not good enough on its own, but with all the other abilities there, yeah.
I mean, there are other cards that tap down certain cards and don't let them untap during their untap step. So
We haven't
mean-
talked about any of those today.
I'm just saying in general. I mean, like I'm just saying, cards that are legal in other formats, and like I mean, for instance, sleep is 2 generic and 2 blue, and you tap all creatures target player controls, and they don't untap on the next end step or
I
the
was
next untap
being-
step.
I
Oh,
was being sarcastic, by the way. The first card we talked about today actually did exactly this.
Your sarcasm went over my head.
very much mine too.
He was talking about the Kraken.
Yeah, there we go. The Watcher in the Water.
True. Yo, but this, it's so much. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. No. The creature's the stun counter. How long it's gonna stay tapped? But it's not
2
just
turns.
1 turn. It's 2 turns. That's
Yes.
big value,
That's why we said it's guaranteed 2 cards.
bruh. Not only that, it's like you're
I'm
gonna swing it
saying-
for a shitload.
Not even mentioning swinging for a shitload. You're
Why?
letting your other. I was gonna say you're letting your other opponents give access to a different opponent, right? You say, hey, I'm tapping down their big stuff. You can go and attack them now. And if they attack, then you draw the cards on that opponent. Depending on how many creatures they tap down to attack, draw more cards.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking about the draft thing like they were saying. 1-on-1, just swing out and just 2 turns, I got nothing, you can nuke them.
It's true. It's a good card. But that is going to do it for us today. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We are still very much in the thick of spoiler season. I know there is, for the rest of the week, we got a lot of cards still coming. What was your favorite card? Comment down below and let us know. Our favorite cards, starting with Steven, what's yours?
My favorite card is definitely the Spiteful Banditry.
You're very high in that card. Yeah. David, do you have a favorite?
I do. My favorite of the day is the Battle of Bywater, just because, well, it's a great card.
Food.
Hunter, my favorite was the Kraken.
The Kraken, the Watcher in the Water. Yeah, I think
What are
my
yours?
favorite today, I'm going to have to go with Elanor Gardener. I think that just, the value there for food turning into lands is very good.
Very good.
But that's all the rares and the mythics that were shown off today. If you guys are missing out on the commons and uncommons, follow us on our Instagram. You'll find the link in our description, as well as the links to our Twitter and our TikTok. That is @guysatmagic for every single one. Follow along. We post all of the spoilers as they're released on our Instagram. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.
Bye.
What?